If the tribunal please, the last question which I asked last night, referring to the mobilization preparations for the Rhineland, as shown by the official transcript, was this. But of a character which had to be kept entirely secret from foreign powers. The answer was, I do not believe I can recall the publication of the preparations of the United States for mobilization. Now, representing the United States of America, I am confronted with these choices: to ignore that remark and allow it to stand for people who do not understand our system, or to develop at considerable expense of time its falsity, or to answer it in rebuttal. The difficulty arises from this, Your Honor, that if the witness is permitted to volunteer statements in cross-examination, there is no opportunity to make objections until they are placed in the record. Of course, if such an answer had been indicated by a question of counsel, as I respectfully submit would be the orderly procedure, there would have been objection. The tribunal would have been in a position to discharge its duty under the charter, and I would have been in a position to have shortened the case by not having that remark placed. Now, the charter in Article 18 provides that the tribunal shall rule out irrelevant issues and statements of any kind whatsoever. We're squarely confronted with that question. We cannot discharge those duties if the defendant is to volunteer these statements without questions which bring them forth. I respectfully submit that if the ruling of the tribunal that the defendant may volunteer questions of this kind is to prevail, the control of these proceedings is put in the hands of this defendant, and the United States is substantially denied its right of cross-examination under the charter, because cross-examination cannot be effective under this kind of procedure, because we cannot anticipate, we cannot deal.
Well, Mr. Justice Jackson, I quite agree with you that any reference to the United States secrecy with reference to its mobilization is entirely irrelevant, and that answer ought not to have been made. But the only rule which the tribunal can lay down as a general rule is the rule which it has already laid down, that the witness must answer, if possible, yes or no, and that he may make such explanations as may be necessary after answering questions directly in that way, and that such explanations must be brief and not be speeches. As regards that particular answer, I think it is entirely irrelevant.
Well, I must, of course, bow to the ruling of the tribunal, but it is to the second part. I quite recall the admonition of the court that there shall be answers, yes or no. This witness, of course, pays not the slightest attention to that. And I must say I can't blame the witness because he's pursuing his interests. But we have no way of anticipating, and here we are confronted with this statement in the record, because when they are volunteered, they are in the record before the tribunal can rule upon it. And I have no opportunity to make objection, or the tribunal no opportunity to rule. And it leaves, as I said before, the control of these proceedings in the hands of the defendant, because he first makes his charge, and then it puts it up to us to either ignore them, to answer them by long cross-examination, or to answer them in rebuttal. And I think the specific charge made against the United States of America from the witness stand presents that. Your Honor now advises the United States it was an improper answer, but it's in the record. and we must deal with it. And I respectfully submit that unless we can have...
Mr. Justice Jackson, what exactly is the motion that you're making? I mean, are you asking the tribunal to strike this answer out of the record?
We all know that in a trial of this kind, where propaganda is one of the purposes of the defendants, striking out does no good after the answer is made. And Goering knows that as well as I do.
Well,
the charge has been made against the United States, and it is in the record. I am now moving that this witness be instructed that he must answer my questions, yes or no if they permit of answer, and that the explanations be brought out by his counsel in a fashion that will permit us to make objections if they are irrelevant, and to obtain rulings of the tribunal so that the tribunal can discharge its function of ruling out irrelevant issues and statements of any kind whatsoever. We mustn't let this trial degenerate into a bickering contest between ourselves and the witness. That isn't what the United States would expect me to participate in. And I respectfully suggest that if he can throw any kind of challenge at us,
Mr. Justice Jackson, are you submitting to the tribunal that the witness has got to answer every question yes or no, and wait until he's re-examined for the purpose of making any explanation at all?
I think that is the rule of cross-examination in ordinary circumstances, that a witness, if the question admits of it, must answer. And if the explanation, if there are relevant explanations. Now, let me come back to the specific problem I have right here this morning. Here is an answer given which the tribunal now rules is irrelevant. But we had no opportunity to object to it. The tribunal had no opportunity to rule upon it. Had counsel asked, did you ever hear of the United States publishing its statements of mobilization? Of course, we would have objected. The difficulty is that the tribunal loses control of these proceedings if the defendant, in a case of this kind, where we all know propaganda is one of the purposes of the defendants, is permitted to put his propaganda in, and then we have to meet it afterwards. And I really feel that the United States is deprived of the opportunity of effective cross-examination if this is the procedure.
Surely it's making too much of a sentence which the witness has said about whether the United States makes its mobilization orders public or not. Surely that's not a matter of any very great importance.
Let me agree with Your Honor at once.
Every country keeps certain things secret. Surely it would be much wiser to ignore a statement of that sort. But as to the general rule, the tribunal will now consider the matter. I have already laid down what I believe to be the rule, and I think with the assent of the tribunal, but I will ascertain.
Let me say that I agree with Your Honor that as far as the United States is concerned, we're not worried about anything this witness can say about us. And we expected plenty. The point is, do we answer these things or do we leave them? The point is the control of this trial. And it does seem to me that this is the beginning of this trial getting out of hand, if I may say so, if we do not have control of this situation. I trust the tribunal will pardon my earnestness in presenting this. I think it's a very vital thing.
Well, I've never heard it suggested that the counsel for the prosecution had got to answer every irrelevant observation which is made in cross-examination.
That would be true in a private litigation. But I trust the court is not unaware that outside of this courtroom is a great social question of the revival of Nazism, and that one of the purposes here of the defendant Goering, I think he'd be the first to admit, is to revive and perpetuate it by propaganda from this trial table if possible.
Mr. Justice Jackson, the tribunal considers that the rule which it has laid down is the only possible rule, and that the witness must be confined strictly to answering the question directly where the question admits of a direct answer, and that he must not make his explanation before he gives a direct answer, but after having given a direct answer to any question which admits of a direct answer, he may make a short explanation, and that he is not to be confined simply to making direct answers, yes or no, and leaving the explanation until his counsel puts it to him in a re-examination. As to this particular observation of the defendant ought not to have referred to the United States, but it is a matter which I think you might well ignore.
I shall bow to the ruling, of course. I wish to make a statement to the Tribunal about one of the documents. At the conclusion of the session yesterday, we were considering document EC 405. The defendant, Goering, challenged the use of a word which he said should have been translated clearance rather than liberation. We have since had the translation checked and find that the defendant is correct. This document was introduced under the number GB 160 on the 9th of January at page 2396 of the Tribunal's records. And since it has already been received in evidence and is before the Tribunal, we think that it is incumbent upon the prosecution to make that correction now for the record. You yesterday stated that the minutes of the Reich Defense Council with which you were presented were not minutes of a meeting of the Reich Defense Council as such. Do you recall that?
Das habe ich erklärt.
And your testimony, notwithstanding that document, still stands. I take it that the Reich Defense Council never met.
Das habe ich gesagt. Jawohl.
I now ask to have you shown a document which has just come to our possession. The minutes of the second session of the Reich Defense Council. I shouldn't say just come to our possession, just come to our translation. I may say that we've not had this translated. We just discovered it among our great collection of documents.
Have you let Dr. Starmer have a copy in English or not?
We haven't even had a chance to get it into English. I don't even know what it says, except that it's the minutes of their meeting.
Very well.
We have a photostat of the. Will you show him the? That's a photostat of the law, not the document. Is that not the minutes of the second meeting of the Reich Defense Council held on the 23rd of June, 1939?
Ich muss es erst durchsehen, bitte.
I call your attention to the fact that the chairman is Minister President General Field Marshal Goering. You'll find that on page 1.
Das ist ja nie bestritten worden. Das ist ja durch Gesetz festgelegt worden. Es handelt sich hier um den zweiten Reichsverteidigungsrat, nicht um jenen ersten. Im Übrigen habe ich an der Sitzung nicht teilgenommen. Ich verweise, dass links die Stellen stehen, die als Dienststellen teilgenommen haben. Und da steht bei mir Ministerpräsident Generalfeldmarschall Goering und als Teilnehmer für ihn Rechtsstaatssekretär Körner und Staatssekretär Neumann. Aber es kann sein, ich muss das Schreiben erst durchsehen, um festzustellen, ob ich selbst auch daran teilgenommen habe.
Well, does it not say on page 1, directly under the place of meeting, Chairman, Minister President Goering?
Jawohl, ich muss es erst lesen.
And do you deny the authenticity of those minutes?
Ich habe es noch nicht gesehen, durchgesehen. Scheint mir ein absolut echtes Protokoll zu sein. Das gebe ich absolut zu. Aber auch hier handelt es sich wieder um eine Sitzung, nicht, wie ich mich in meiner Antwort an meinen Anwalt ausdrückte, um den eigentlichen Reichsverteidigungsrat, sondern um eine umfassende Sitzung, zu der zahlreiche andere Dienststellen herangezogen waren. Und um den zweiten nach 38 geschaffenen Reichsverteidigungsrat, nicht um jenen geheimen, der aus dem Jahr 33 bis 38 stammt.
In other words, in interpreting your testimony, we must understand that when you say there was no meeting of the Reich Defense Council, you only mean there was no meeting at which no other people were present.
Nein, das ist nicht richtig. Es handelt sich um zwei Reichsverteidigungsgesetze des Reichsverteidigungsrates, die ich auch in meiner Aussage klarzumachen versuchte. Um den Geheimen, der zurückgehalten worden war, nicht veröffentlicht wurde, von 33 bis 38, und den Reichsverteidigungsrat, der dann 38 geschaffen wurde und 39 in den Ministerrat überführt wurde. Und dieser hat weit über den Rahmen der zugehörigen Mitgliedersitzungen abgehalten.
Then you say this was not the Defense Council that met under the ban of secrecy.
Die Anklage, ich möchte die Antwort erst mit Ja oder Nein beantworten. Obwohl sie auf diese Frage schwer mit Ja oder Nein antworten lässt. Ich behaupte dass der geheime Reichsverteidigungsrat, der nicht veröffentlicht wurde, aus der Ministersitzung von 33 geschaffen, nicht zusammengetreten ist. Und erst nach 38 durch ein neues Verteidigungsgesetz geschaffener Rat. Denn damals war ja nun die Wehrhoheit schon längst erklärt. Der erste, von dem die Anklagebehörde hier als den Geheimen sprach, ist nicht zusammengetreten. Das hat auch das gestrige Dokument bewiesen.
You refer to page 19 of this document, please, and tell me whether one of the very things that this meeting concerned itself with was not the lifting of the secrecy ban from the Reich Defense Law.
Nein, so steht es nicht drin. Es steht drin, ich darf es übersetzen, der letzte Punkt der Tagesordnung. Folgerungen aus der Aufhebung des Geheimschutzes des Reichsverteidigungsgesetzes und Maßnahmen zur Erleichterung des Geschäftsverkehrs ist durch Schreiben des Reichsverteidigungsausschusses und so weiter schon am 26.06. erledigt worden. Die Folgerungen aus der Aufhebung des Geheimschutzes zur Erleichterung des Schriftverkehrs.
You have stated that on the Jewish question, some of the members of the government were more radical than you. And would you state who those were?
Zunächst war allgemein bei Regierungsübernahme nur die Forderung gestellt, Ausscheiden aus den politischen Stellen und Ausscheiden aus gewissen sonst führenden Staatsstellen. Es kam dann hinzu...
Now that isn't what I asked you.
The question was that you had said that some members of the government were more radical towards Jews than you were. And would you tell us which of the members of the government were more radical than you were?
Verzeihung, ich hatte die Frage nicht verstanden, um wen es sich gehandelt hat, sondern worin sich die radikalere Haltung ausdrückt. Wenn gefragt wird, wen, dann betone ich, dass es sich hier um die Persönlichkeiten des Minister Goebbels und Himmler in Hauptsache gehandelt hat.
Yes, I don't know if they're in or not, or if he wants them to be.
Do you also include your co-defendant Streicher as more radical than you?
Ja, aber er war nicht im Regierungsmitglied. Und
He was a Gauleiter. He was a Gauleiter, was he not, for this very territory in which we sit?
Das ist richtig, hatte aber auf Regierungsmaßnahmen geringen Einfluss oder gar keinen.
What about Heydrich?
Heydrich war ein Untergebener von Himmler. Wenn ich Himmler sagte, so muss ich Heydrich mit einbeziehen.
As one of Heydrich is then included in the list of the more radical ones to whom you refer. That is right. What about Bormann?
Jawohl. Bormann das Hervortreten Bormanns in radikalerer Richtung habe ich erst in den späteren Jahren bemerken können. Seine Anfangshaltung kenne ich nicht.
Now, I want to review with you briefly what the prosecution understands to be public acts taken by you in reference to the Jewish question. From the very beginning, you regarded the elimination of the Jew from the economic life of Germany as one phase of the 4-year plan under your jurisdiction, did you not?
Die Eliminierung aus der... Jawohl, Zum Teil stimmt es. Die Eliminierung, soweit es sich vor allem um die größeren Betriebe handelte, weil dort fortgesetzt dadurch Unruhe entstand, dass darauf hingewiesen wurde, dass hier große Betriebe und auch Rüstungsbetriebe noch unter zum Teil jüdischen Direktoren oder Aktionären standen. Und das gab immer von den unteren Stellen Anlass einer gewissen Beunruhigung für den Betrieb.
Now, do we understand that you want the tribunal to believe that all you were concerned with then was the big Jewish enterprises? Is that the way you want to be understood?
Mich störten zunächst die kleinen Läden und das für den Vierjahresplan nicht.
When did you become disturbed with the small stores?
Als der Handel, der übersetzte Handel zurückgeschraubt werden sollte, der Einzelhandel, wurde bestimmt, dass hierzu in erster Linie bei Einstellung von Geschäften jüdische zu nehmen seien.
Now, let us go through the public acts which you performed on the Jewish question. First, did you proclaim the Nuremberg laws?
Als Reichstagspräsident, jawohl, habe ich schon betont.
Yeah. What date was that?
35, glaube ich, hier in Nürnberg im September.
And that was the beginning of the legal measures taken against the Jews, was it not?
Das war eine legale Maßnahme.
And that was the first of the legal measures taken by your government against the Jews, was it not?
Nein, ich glaube, die Ausscheidung aus dem Berufsamtentum liegt vorher.
When was that?
Ich will mich auf das Datum nicht festlegen, aber das, glaube ich, war bereits im Jahr 33.
Then, on the first day of December 1936, you promulgated an act making a death penalty for German subjects who transfer property abroad or leave it abroad, the property
Das ist richtig.
of a culprit to be forfeited to the state, and the People's Court given jurisdiction to prosecute, did you not?
Das ist richtig. Die Devisenschutzverordnung.
Yes. Then,
Das heißt, wer ohne Erlaubnis der Regierung ein Konto im Ausland hat.
Then, your third public act was on the 22nd of April 1938 when you published penalties for veiling the character of a Jewish enterprise within the Reich. Was it not?
Jawohl.
Then on the 28th of July 1939, you, Hermann Goering, published certain prescriptions on the competence of the courts to handle those matters by the decree. Did you not?
Ich bitte mir, das Gesetz vorzulegen. Ich habe es nicht im Kopf.
No, I will not take time reading it. Do you deny that you published Reichsgesetzblatt Law of 1939, found in page 1370, referring to the competence of courts to handle the penalties against Jews? If you don't remember, say so.
Wenn es ein... Ja, ich sage, ich kann mich nicht an das Gesetz erinnern. Wenn es im Reichsgesetzblatt steht und meinen Namen trägt, ist es selbstverständlich. Ich weiß nur nicht den Inhalt jetzt.
Now, on the 26th of April 1938, you, under the 4-year plan, published a decree providing for the registration of Jewish property and provided that Jews inside and outside of Germany must register their property. Did you not?
Ich nehme an, ich habe es nicht in Erinnerung, aber wenn Sie dort den Erlass haben und der Erlass meine Unterschrift trägt, so kann kein Zweifel daran bestehen.
On the 26th of April 1938, you published a decree under the 4-year plan, did you not, that all acts of disposal of Jewish enterprises required the permission of the authorities.
Daran erinnere ich mich.
Then you published on the 12th of November 1938 a decree, also under the 4-year plan, imposing a fine of 1 billion marks for atonement on all Jews.
Das habe ich bereits ausgeführt, dass ich diese sämtlichen damals erlassenen Gesetze gezeichnet habe und dafür die Verantwortung trage.
Well, I'm asking you if you didn't sign that particular decree. I'm going to ask you some further questions about it later.
Jawohl.
Yes. Then, on the 12th of November 1938, you also signed a decree that, under the 4-year plan, that all damage caused to Jewish property by the riots of 1938 must be repaired immediately by the Jews at their own expense, and their insurance claims were forfeited to the Reich. Did you personally sign that law?
Ein ähnliches Gesetz habe ich unterschrieben, ob es genau so die Zusammenhänge exakt wiedergibt, wie Sie es soeben ausdrücken, weiß ich nicht.
That in substance. You don't disagree with that was the substance of the law, do you?
Ja.
And on the 12th of November 1938, did you not also personally sign a decree, also under the 4-year plan, that Jews may not own retail stores or engage independently in handicrafts or offer goods or services for sale at markets, fairs, or exhibitions, or be leaders of enterprises or members of cooperatives? Do you remember all of that?
Jawohl, das sind alles Teile der Erlasse und Gesetze zur Ausschaltung des Judentums aus dem Wirtschaftsleben.
Then on the 21st of February 1939, you personally signed a decree, did you not? That the Jews must surrender all objects of precious metals and jewels purchased to the public office within 2 weeks.
Ich erinnere mich nicht, aber es wird zweifelsohne stimmen.
I refer to Volume 1 of the Reichsgesetzblatt, 1939, page 282. You have no recollection of that.
Ich habe das Reichsgesetzblatt nicht vor mir. Aber wenn im Reichsgesetzblatt ein Erlass oder ein Gesetz mit meinem Namen unterschrieben steht, dann habe ich dieses Gesetz unterschrieben und erlassen.
Did you not also, on the 3rd of March 1939, sign a further decree concerning the period within which items of jewelry must be surrendered by Jews? I refer to Reichsgesetzblatt, Volume 1, 1939, page 387.
Ich nehme an, das wird der Ausführungserlass zu dem eben vorher erwähnten Ablieferungserlass sein. Ein Gesetz erfordert ja manchmal die Ausführungsbestimmungen und Ausführungserlasse im Gefolge des Gesetzes. Zusammen gesehen ist das eine einzige Maßnahme.
Did you not also sign, personally, a decree under the four-year plan of the 17th of September 1940, ordering the sequestration of Jewish property in Poland?
Jawohl, das habe ich neulich schon ausgeführt. Und zwar in dem Teil Polens, ich darf darauf hinweisen, der als alte deutsche Provinzen wieder eingedeutscht werden sollte.
Did you not also, on the 30th day of November 1940, personally sign a decree which provided that the Jews should receive no compensation for damages caused by enemy attacks or by German forces? And did you not sign that in the capacity of President of the Reich's Defense Council? I refer to Reich's Gazetteblatt, Volume 1 of 1940, page 1547.
Wenn Sie das dort stehen haben, dann ist das richtig.
You have no recollection of that?
Nicht an alle einzelnen Gesetze unterlasse. Das ist unmöglich.
Then it was you, was it not, who signed on the 31st day of July, 1941, a decree asking Himmler and the SS, the Chief of Security Police, and the SS Gruppenführer to make the plans for the complete solution of the Jewish question.
Nein, so ist das nicht richtig. Diesen Erlass
I asked to have you shown.
kenne ich genau.
I asked to have you shown document 710, United States 509.
Is that 710 PS?
710 PS, Your Honor. I'm sorry. Now that document is signed by you, is it not?
Das ist richtig.
And it is addressed to the Chief of the Security Police and the Security Service and to SS Gruppenführer Heydrich, isn't it?
Auch das ist richtig.
I am not certain whether the entire thing has been read into the record, but I think it should be. And that we may have no difficulty about the translation of this, you correct me if I'm wrong. Completing the task that was assigned to you on the 24th of January 1939,
Verzeihung, hier schon ein Fehler. Es heißt in Ergänzung der Ihnen übertragenen Aufgabe, nicht die Vollendung der Ihnen übertragenen Aufgabe. Nein, ich möchte das selbst kontrollieren.
very well, I'll accept that, which dealt with arriving at a thorough furtherance of immigration and evacuation, a solution of the Jewish problem as advantageous as possible. I hereby charge you with making all necessary preparations in regard to organizational and financial matters for bringing about a complete solution of the Jewish question in the German sphere of influence in Europe. Am I correct so far?
Nein, das ist in keiner Weise korrekt
All right.
in der deutschen Sprache
Give us your
übersetzt
translation
worden.
of it. Give us your translation of it.
Darf ich es genau vorlesen, wie es hier steht? In Ergänzung der Ihnen bereits mit Erlass vom 24.01.39, also vor Kriegsbeginn, übertragenen Aufgabe, die Judenfrage in Form der Auswanderung oder Evakuierung einer den Zeitverhältnissen entsprechend möglichst günstigsten Lösung zuzuführen, beauftrage ich Sie hiermit, alle erforderlichen Vorbereitungen in organisatorischer, sachlicher und materieller Hinsicht zu treffen. Und jetzt kommt das entscheidende Wort, das falsch übersetzt wurde. Es heißt hier nämlich, für eine Gesamtlösung, nicht für eine Endlösung, für eine Gesamtlösung der Judenfrage im deutschen Einflussgebiet in Europa. Sofern hierbei die Zuständigkeit anderer Zentralinstanzen berührt werden, sind diese zu beteiligen. Ich beauftrage Sie weiter, mir in Bälde einen Gesamtentwurf über die organisatorischen, sachlichen und materiellen Vorausnahmen zur Durchführung der angestrebten Endlösung der Judenfrage vorzulegen. In Ergänzung des Ihnen mit Erlass vom 24.01.39, das heißt also zu einem Zeitpunkt, wo keinerlei Krieg begonnen oder in Aussicht stand.
Well, now are you quoting the instrument or making an explanation?
Ich habe jetzt eine Erklärung zum Zitat dieses Briefes geben wollen und besonders auf dieses Datum hingewiesen.
Yes. Well, I just didn't want it to appear that it was a part, that your explanation is a part of the instrument. The last that is contained in the instrument is, I charge you, furthermore, to send to me before long an overall plan concerning the organizational, factual, and material measures necessary for the accomplishment of the desired solution of the Jewish question. Is that not a substantially accurate translation of your order to Heydrich and Himmler?
An Heydrich und die übrigen daran beteiligten Zentralinstanzen. Es ergibt sich das aus dem ersten Teil des Briefes, der Schlusssatz.
That is, let's have no misunderstanding about this translation now. This letter itself was directed to the chief of the security police and the security service and SS Gruppenführer Heydrich. We're right about that, aren't we?
Das ist richtig, und dazu muss ich aber nun die Erklärung abgeben.
And. All right.
Die Erklärung abgeben, dass ich deshalb den Brief an ihn gerichtet habe, weil Heydrich mit Erlass vom 24.01.39 beziehungsweise Himmler die Aufgabe der Judenauswanderung übertragen war. Folgedessen war dies die Zentralstelle und ich musste mich für die ganzen materiellen und wirtschaftlich sich daraus ergebenden Dinge an die Stelle wenden, welche den Zentralauftrag hatte.
Yes, and you ordered all other governmental agencies to cooperate with the security police and the SS in the final solution of the Jewish question, didn't you?
Hier kommt nichts von der SS vor, nur von der Sicherheitspolizei einer staatlichen Stelle. Dass Herr Heydrich SS-Gruppenführer ist, hat damit ja direkt nichts zu tun. Denn es wendet sich an den Chef der Sicherheitspolizei und erwähnt seinen Rang SS-Gruppenführer Heydrich.
Oh. And the mentioning his rank in the SS was just superfluous, has nothing to do with the case.
Ich muss das erklären, wenn ich an den Oberbefehlshaber des Heeres schreibe, dann schreibe ich an den Oberbefehlshaber des Heeres, Generaloberst oder Generalfeldmarschalls von Brauchitsch zum Beispiel. Und wenn ich an den Chef der Sicherheitspolizei schreibe, dann muss ich schreiben an den Chef der Sicherheitspolizei, SS-Gruppenführer Heydrich. Das war ja sein Rang und sein Titel. Hat aber mit einer Wendung der SS nichts zu tun.
Now, at the time that you issued this order, you had received complete reports as to the 1938 riots and Heydrich's part in them, hadn't you?
Ich hatte die Teilnahme von Heydrich an diesen Krawallen nicht zu diesem Zeitpunkt, sondern nur den Bericht Heydrichs über die Krawalle, den ich angefordert hatte.
All right. Now we'll show you exhibit number 3058 PS. In evidence is United States Exhibit 508. That is the report of Heydrich, which you say you had received, on the dated the 11th of November, 1938, was it not?
Das ist richtig.
Yes. And it recited to you the looting of Jewish shops, the arrest of 174 persons for looting, the destruction of 815 shops, 171 dwellings set on fire or destroyed, and that those indicated only a fraction of the actual damage caused. 191 synagogues were set on fire, and another 76 completely destroyed. In addition, 11 parish halls, cemetery chapels, and similar buildings were set on fire, and 3 more completely destroyed. 20,000 Jews were arrested. Also 7 Aryans and 3 foreigners. The latter were arrested for their own safety. 36 deaths were reported, and those seriously injured were also numbered at 36. Those killed and injured are Jews. 1 Jew is still missing. The Jews killed include 1 Polish national, and those injured include 2 Poles. You had that report on or about the 11th day of November, 1938, did you not?
Das ist richtig. Das ist gerade der Bericht, von dem ich gesprochen habe, den ich angefordert habe von der Polizei, weil ich wissen wollte, was bis dahin nun geschehen war.
Exactly. And the note was made at the top of it, the General Field Marshal has been informed, no steps are to be taken. Was it not?
Das ist so nicht richtig. Hier steht, Generalfeldmarschall hat Kenntnis genommen, es ist nichts zu veranlassen von Seite einer anderen Stelle, weil ich selbst ja die Veranlassung vorgenommen habe.
Now, you know that that isn't true, don't you? That no steps were to be taken by any other office. And I put it to you squarely whether you're telling this tribunal, when you say that no steps were to be taken by anyone else, whether you are telling this tribunal the truth.
Dieses ist ein Vermerk von meiner Dienststelle oder Adjutantur, dass von dieser Seite nichts unternommen wird, weil ich betont habe, die Sache nehme ich selbst in die Hand. Ich bin nämlich mit diesem Bericht zum Führer gegangen.
All right. Did you receive a report from the chief party judge of the Nazi Party, dated Munich, the 13th of February, 1939, of the party proceedings about these matters?
Das ist richtig, sehr viel später habe ich diesen Bericht bekommen.
And at the time you appointed, well, I withdraw the question. It's obvious from the dates of the documents. You acknowledged that receipt of that document, did you not? To dear party member Buck.
Das ist auch richtig.
Yes. And the only proceedings that were taken about these riots were proceedings taken by the court of the party, were they not?
Nicht vollständig, einige wurden auch vor das Gericht gestellt. Steht auch in dem Bericht.
Yes. Well, now I ask that it be shown the report, which is document 3063 PS. It is not in evidence, as I understand it. 3063 PS. Got it here. The document apparently hasn't been brought here, but I will ask you from your recollection.
Ich kenne es aber ziemlich genau.
Yes, I thought so.
Nein, weil es mir hier vorgelegt worden ist.
Yes, it hasn't been kept from you. Now, in the first place, the party court reported that it was probably understood, I quote, by all of the party leaders present, from oral instructions of the Reich propaganda director, that the party should not appear outwardly as the originator of the demonstrations, but in reality should organize and execute them. Was that the report of the party court?
Das Parteigericht hat als sein Untersuchungsergebnis festgestellt, dass die Propagandaleitung Dr. Goebbels diese Anweisung gegeben hat. Es handelt sich doch, glaube ich, um einen Bericht aus den Märztagen des Jahres 39 oder April.
The 13th of February 1939 is the date.
Jawohl, das ist richtig. Also das Untersuchungsergebnis nach diesen Ereignissen.
That's right. Now, as a result of the riots, did the party court, not also report this to you? The Supreme Party Court has reserved for itself the investigation of the killings, severe mistreatment, and moral crimes, and that it would request the Führer to quash proceedings against any persons that the party court did not find guilty of excesses.
Das ist richtig.
And the party court was made up of Go-Lighters and group leaders of the party.
Das Parteigericht wechselte ja. Ich kann in diesem Augenblick nicht sagen, ohne das Dokument zu besitzen, wer das Parteigericht in diesem Fall war. Ich sehe soeben, dass ich es bekomme.
I call your attention to page 4, toward the bottom, where the report says, Go-Lighters and group leaders of the branches served as jurors at the trials and decisions.
Jawohl, es ist selbstverständlich, dass die Geschworenen des Parteigerichtes immer aus diesen Kategorien je nach Wichtigkeit genommen wurden. Ich wollte nur zum Ausdruck bringen, ich wusste nicht, welche Namen hier beteiligt waren.
Yes, well, now the party court found 5 persons guilty of offenses, which, did they not? Number 1 was a moral crime and race violation by one of the members of the party, and he was expelled. Is that right?
Und dem Strafgericht überstellt wurde. Im letzten Satz.
That's right. That's right. Then another party member, number 2 case, was suspected of race violation and was expelled from the Nazi Party.
Wegen verdächtig Rassenschande und Diebstahl ausgeschlossen und dem staatlichen Gericht überstellt.
Yes. And number 2, Gustav, was expelled from the party and the SA for theft. Right?
Sie sind bei Nummer 3, ja?
Number two. Gustav, the first
Nummer
man.
2.
The first man mentioned.
Gustav ist der Nachname, der Vorname. Gerstner. Jawohl, wegen Diebstahl ebenfalls und Verdacht der Rassenschande dem staatlichen Gericht überstellt.
Now, number 3 dealt with 2 expulsions of party members on the grounds of moral crimes against a Jewess, and they're now held in protective custody. Right?
Aus der NSDAP ausgeschlossen, in Schutzhaft gegeben. Diese sind ebenfalls später dem Gericht überstellt worden. Das weiß ich genau.
Now, you come to 4 and 5. Cases 4 and 5, the first of which, a man, party member, an SA member, was given a warning and sentenced to 3 years deprivation of ability to hold office, public office, because of disciplinary violation, namely, killing of the Jewish couple Selig contrary to orders. That right?
Das ist richtig.
And the last of those cases was a warning and a sentence of 3 years deprivation of ability to hold office because of shooting a 16-year-old Jew contrary to orders after completion of the drive. Is that right?
Das ist richtig.
Yeah. We now come to the cases of killing of Jews in which proceedings were suspended or minor punishments pronounced. And I will not go through those in detail, but it is a fact that only minor punishments were pronounced for the killing of Jews by the Supreme Court of the party, were they not?
Ja, das ist richtig.
I now ask you to turn to page 9.
Ein Augenblick.
I call your attention to this language. In regard to cases 3 to 16,
Auf Seite?
the Supreme... 9, I believe it is. The Supreme Party Court asks the Führer to quash the proceedings in the state criminal courts.
Niederzuschlagen, das ist nicht unterdrücken. Es kann ein Strafverfahren niedergeschlagen werden. Das ist in Deutschland etwas anderes wie unterdrücken.
Well, you put your version on it and tell us what it is. What is beating down a proceeding? Does it mean that it's ended?
Das bedeutet es. Aber Niederschlagung eines Verfahrens kann nur angeordnet werden von einer Stelle, die dazu berechtigt ist. Also der Führer kann Verfahren auf dem Amnestiewege jederzeit niederschlagen. Das Kabinett konnte jederzeit einen Beschluss fassen, ein Verfahren niederzuschlagen. Unterdrückung eines Verfahrens wäre eine illegale Handlung.
Well,
Niederschlagen ist der juristische Fachausdruck in Deutschland für Aussetzung.
And one further question. It was also reported to you, was it not, in that report? I refer to page 11. The public, down to the last man, realizes that political drives, like those of the 9th of November, were organized and directed by the party, whether this is admitted or not. When all the synagogues burned down in one night, it must have been organized in some way and can only have been organized by the party. That also was in the report of the Supreme Court, was it not?
Ich habe es noch nicht gefunden. Die Seite stimmt nicht mit meiner überein.
Well, let's find it and not have any mistake about it. Page 11. I would think it would be at the very bottom of page 10, perhaps, where it starts.
Ja, ich habe es jetzt gefunden.
Did I give a reasonably correct translation of it?
Das ist richtig.
Would that be a convenient time to break off? Before we break off, one moment. You will offer in evidence these documents that you have been putting to the witness, those which are not already in evidence.
Yes, they should be, Your Honor. I will do that.
I think 3575 PS may have been offered yesterday and not strictly offered in evidence, and 3063 PS today, and one other document I haven't got the number of.
I appreciate your calling my attention to it very much.
Now, all recording room, take a 10-minute break. Take a 10-minute break.
Now, the Völkischer Beobachter of the 12th of March, 1933, quotes a speech of yours delivered at Essen on the 11th of March, 1933, including the following. And I refresh your recollection by calling it to your attention. I am told that I must employ the police. Certainly I shall employ the police, and quite ruthlessly, whenever the German people are hurt. But I refuse the notion that the police are protective troops for Jewish stores. No, the police protect whoever come into Germany legitimately, but it does not exist for the purpose of protecting usurers. Did you say that?
In wann soll das gewesen sein?
Did you say that on the 11th of March, 1933, in a speech at Essen? That or that in substance?
Das ist richtig, hat aber einen anderen Zusammenhang. Bevor ich darauf eingehe, darf ich fragen, Sie sind mit dem Dokument hier fertig von Buch, das mir vorhin vorgelegt wurde. Weil ich dazu keine Erklärung abgegeben habe, ich werde meinen Verteidiger bitten, mich zu diesem Dokument später zu befragen.
That's quite satisfactory. After the riots of November 9th and 10th, you have testified that you called a meeting on the 12th of November and ordered all officials concerned to be present, and that the Führer had insisted on Goebbels being present.
Ja.
And that after that meeting,
die einschlägigen Führer der Wirtschaftsressorts.
Could you tell us who was there in addition to yourself and Goebbels?
Es war da, so viel ich mich erinnere, zur Berichterstattung der Chef der Geheimen Staatspolizei über die Vorgänge. Dann war da der Wirtschaftsminister, der Finanzminister, Innenminister.
Will you please name them by name so we won't get any mistake about who was who at that time?
Ich kann sie nur aus der Erinnerung geben, weil ich das Protokoll kenne. Also, es war da zur Berichterstattung der Vorfälle der Führer der Geheimen Staatspolizei in Berlin, Heydrich. Es war da, soweit ich mich erinnere, der Reichsinnenminister Dr. Frick. Dr. Goebbels haben Sie schon erwähnt. Es war da der damalige Wirtschaftsminister Funk, der Finanzminister Graf Schwerin-Krosigk, von der Ostmark Fischböck, das sind die Namen, die ich mich im Augenblick erinnere. Es mögen noch einige mehr dabei gewesen sein.
And a part of the time, Hilgard, representing the insurance companies, was also present, was he not?
Er war berufen, wartete und wurde zu den speziellen Fragen gehört.
Now, you have been shown the stenographic minutes of that meeting, which are in evidence as United States Exhibit 261, being document 1816 PS. Have you not, in your interrogations?
Jawohl.
I'll ask that they be shown to you now so that we may have no misunderstanding about the translations. You opened the meeting with this statement as I read it. Gentlemen, I think perhaps we better identify this meeting. This is a meeting held on the 12th day of November, 1938, at the office of the Reich Ministry for Air. That is correct, is it not?
Ja. Jawohl.
You opened the meeting. Gentlemen, today's meeting is of a decisive nature. I have received a letter written on the Führer's orders by the Stabsleiter of the Führer's Deputy Bormann, requesting that the Jewish question be now, once for all, coordinated and solved one way or another. Is that correct?
Jawohl.
Further down, I find this. Because, gentlemen, I have had enough of these demonstrations. They don't harm the Jews, but me, who is the last authority for coordinating the German economy. If today a Jewish shop is destroyed, if goods are thrown into the street, the insurance company will pay for the damages, which the Jew does not even have. And furthermore, goods of the consumer, goods belonging to the people, are destroyed. If in the future demonstrations which are necessary occur, then I pray that they be directed so as not to hurt us. Am I correct?
Jawohl.
Skipping 2 or 3 paragraphs, I come to
Ja,
this.
es ist dann der Nachsatz weggelassen worden.
Well, you supplement it any way you want to.
Ich bitte Sie, so zu lenken, dass man sich nicht ins eigene Fleisch schneidet. Denn es ist irrsinnig, ein jüdisches Warenhaus auszuräumen und anzuzünden. Dann trägt eine Versicherungsgesellschaft den Schaden und die Waren, die ich dringend brauche, werden verbrannt und fehlen. Dann kann ich gleich die Rohstoffe anzünden, wenn sie hereinkommen.
That's right. You read any part of it that you want to as we go along in addition to what I read. I am not going to tolerate a situation in which the insurance companies are the ones to suffer. Under the authority invested in me, I shall issue a decree, and I am, of course, requesting the support of the competent government agencies so that everything shall be processed through the right channels and the insurance companies will not be the ones who suffer. It may be, though, that these insurance companies may have insurance in foreign countries. If that is the case, foreign bills of exchange would be available, which I would not want to lose. That shall have to be checked. For that reason, I have asked Mr. Hilgard of the insurance company to attend, since he is best qualified to tell us to what extent the insurance companies are protected against damage by having taken out insurance with other companies. I would not want to miss this under any circumstances. Is that correct?
Das ist absolut richtig.
I should not want to leave any doubt, gentlemen, as to the aim of today's meeting. We have not come together merely to talk again, but to make decisions. And I implore the competent agencies to take all measures for the elimination of the Jew from German economy and to submit them to me as far as is necessary.
Das ist richtig.
I then skip a considerable, unless there's more that you wish to put in, and come to this statement. The trustee of the state will estimate the value of the property and decide what amount the Jew shall receive. Naturally, this amount is to be set as low as possible. The representative of the state shall then turn the establishment over to the Aryan proprietor. That is, the property shall be sold according to its real value. There begins the difficulties. It is easily understood that strong attempt will be made to get all these stores to party members and to let them have some kind of compensations. I have witnessed terrible things in the past. Little chauffeurs of go-lighters have profited so much by these transactions that they have now about 500,000. You gentlemen know it. Is that correct? And they assented.
Jawohl, das habe ich gesagt.
Do you care to read anything further in connection with that?
Höchstens den nächsten Satz, der das abstellt. Das sind natürlich Dinge, die unmöglich sind. Ich werde nicht davor zurückscheuen, dort, wo unsauber verfahren wird, rücksichtslos einzugreifen. Sollte es sich um eine prominente Person handeln, die das Delikt ermöglicht, so werde ich binnen 2 Stunden beim Führer sein und diese Schweinerei ganz nüchtern vortragen.
That is, if any individual was attempting to profit by Jewish possessions. Is that what you meant?
Bei der Arisierung.
I will quote another. In other words, an ordinary business transaction is to be sought. One merchant selling, the other one buying a business. If there are party members among the contenders, they are to be preferred. That is, if they have the same qualifications. First shall come the one who's had the most damage. Secondly, selection should be according to length of party membership. I skip a line or two. This party member should have the chance to buy the store for as cheap a price as possible. In such a case, the state will not receive the full price, but only the amount the Jew received. Is that correct?
Ein Augenblick, es ist hier, glaube ich, etwas übersprungen worden, nicht wahr?
Yes, we did. If you want to put it in, you may read it.
Nein, es ist nur kurz zu sagen, damit es nicht zu lang dauert. Ich habe dem Sinn nach hier ausgeführt, was Sie schon gesagt haben, bei gleicher Eignung für das Geschäft ist der Parteigenosse vorzuziehen, und zwar in erster Linie derjenige, der früher dadurch geschädigt wurde, dass ihm seine Geschäftskonzession, weil er Parteigenosse war, entzogen worden war. Und dann kommt der Paragraph, der ist richtig, wie Sie ihn verlesen haben.
Now, you then take up at considerable length the method by which you shall Aryanize Jewish stores. That right?
Jawohl.
And then you take up the Aryanization of Jewish factories.
Jawohl.
You take up the smaller factories first.
Jawohl.
Have you found the place where you take up the factories?
Jawohl.
Quoting, as for the smaller and medium ones, two things shall have to be made clear. First, which factories do I not need at all? Which are the ones where productions could be suspended? Could they not be put to another use? If not, the factories will be razed immediately. Second, in case the factory should be needed, it will be turned over to Aryans on the same manner as the stores. That is correct, is it?
Jawohl.
Do you care for any more on that subject?
Nein, das sind ja alles die Grundausführungen zu den Gesetzen, die ich da gemacht habe.
Now, I call your attention to the paragraph second from that, starting. Take now the larger factories. You'll find that?
Jawohl.
Just Jackson, the Russian translation isn't coming through. All right. It's all right now? Right now. Go on.
Dealing with the larger factories, you say this, do you not? There, the solution is very simple. The factory can be compensated in the same manner as in the sale of stores and factories. That is, at a rate which we shall determine, and the trustee shall take over the Jew's interests as well as his shares, which he in turn may sell or transfer to the state, which will then dispose of them. Right?
Das heißt, sein Anteil, der in der Fabrik steckt, wird ihm zu dem Schlüssel vergütet, den wir festsetzen. Jawohl.
And the reparations would be turned over to the state's trustee, does it not?
Durch den Staatstreuhänder, jawohl. Also die Sache war kurz die, der Jude trat seinen Besitz ab und bekam dadurch Schuldverschreibungen und das Ganze sollte der Treuhänder regeln. 3% Schuldverschreibungen.
Well, we come down to where you deal with the foreign Jews. Do you recall that? And at that point, a representative of the Foreign Office claimed the right to participate on behalf of the foreign minister. Is that right?
Jawohl.
Now we'll pass down to the point of the conversation between yourself and Heydrich.
Einen Augenblick. Es fehlt dann ein Teil des Protokolls.
That's right.
Ja, ich habe das. Wo zum ersten Mal Heydrich aufkommt.
Yes. You inquired how many synagogues were actually burned. And Heydrich replied, altogether there were 101 synagogues destroyed by fire, 76 synagogues demolished, and 7,500 stores ruined in the Reich. Have I quoted that correctly?
Jawohl.
Then Dr. Goebbels interposed, I am of the opinion that this is our chance to dissolve the synagogues. And you had some discussion of dissolving the synagogues, did you not?
Von Seiten Dr. Goebbels, ja. Ausführung, Dr. Goebbels.
And then Dr. Goebbels raised the question of the Jews traveling on railway trains.
Ja.
And let me see if I quote the dialogue between you and Dr. Goebbels correctly on that subject. Dr. Goebbels said, furthermore, I advocate that the Jews be eliminated from all positions in public life in which they may prove to be provocative. It is still possible today that a Jew shares a compartment in a sleeping car with a German. Therefore, we need a decree by the Reich Ministry for Communications stating that separate compartments for Jews shall be available. In case where compartments are filled up, Jews cannot claim a seat. They shall be given a separate compartment only after all Germans have secured seats. They shall not mix with Germans, and if there is no more room, they shall have to stand in the corridor. Is that right?
Jawohl.
Goering, in that case, I think it would make more sense to give them separate compartments. Goebbels, not if the train is overcrowded. Goering, just a minute. There'll be only one Jewish coach. If that is filled up, the other Jews will have to stay at home. Goebbels, suppose, though, there won't be many Jews going on the express train to Munich. Suppose there should be 2 Jews in the train, and the other compartments would be overcrowded. These 2 Jews would then have a compartment all themselves. Therefore, Jews may claim a seat only after all Germans have secured a seat. Goering, I'd give the Jews 1 coach or 1 compartment, and should a case like you mention arise and the train be overcrowded, believe me, we won't need a law. We'll kick him out, and he'll have to sit all alone in the toilet all the way. Is that correct?
Ja, ich war allmählich nervös geworden, wenn der Goebbels bei wichtigen Gesetzen dauernd mit seinen einzelnen Sachen kommt, und da wendete ich das damit ab, und ich habe auf diesem Gebiet auch keine Erlasse und Gesetze rausgegeben. Das liest sich natürlich heute für die Staatsanwaltschaft sehr angenehm, aber damals war das ja eine erregte Sitzung, in der Goebbels fortgesetzt mit neuen Forderungen kam, die weit über das wirtschaftliche Maß hinausgingen. Und eine interne Sitzung, und da habe ich mich meinem Temperament gemäß, wie ich ausdrückte, geäußert.
Goebbels, who was radical on this subject, said the Jews should stand in the corridor, and you said they should have to sit in the toilet. That is the way you...
Nein, so ist das nicht. So kann man das nur darstellen. Ich habe gesagt, sie sollen eigene Abteile bekommen. Und als er immer noch nicht zufrieden war und da Ausführungen im Einzelnen machte, da habe ich ihm schließlich gesagt, daraufzu brauche ich kein Gesetz, dann kann schließlich einer auf dem Lokus sitzen oder rausgehen. Das sind Äußerungen in diesem Zusammenhang. die aber mit der welthistorischen Bedeutung der großen Auseinandersetzung nichts zu tun haben.
They may have, well, I'll not argue that with you. Let us go down now to where Goebbels brings up the subject of the German forests. Goebbels.
Ein Moment. Ja.
It'll all...
Es beginnt damit von Goebbels, dass er eine Verordnung fordert, dass es den Juden absolut verboten ist, deutsche Erholungsstätten zu besuchen. Worauf ich antworte, man kann ihnen ja eigene geben. Und dann kommt er, man könnte sich überlegen, ob man ihnen eigene gibt oder ob man Bäder zur Verfügung stellt und so weiter. Es wäre zu überlegen, ob es nicht notwendig ist, den Juden das Betreten des deutschen Waldes zu verbieten. Heute laufen Juden rudelweise im Grunewald herum. Das ist ein dauerndes Provozieren und so weiter. Daraufhin, als es wieder mit diesem neuen Moment kam, erst Bäder, dann Bänke und so weiter, antwortete ich sehr drastisch: Also, wir werden den Juden dann lieber einen gewissen Waldteil zur Verfügung stellen, weil er sie ganz aus dem Wald haben wollte. Und dann habe ich diese, Sie wahrscheinlich sehr interessierende Bemerkung angeschlossen.
Well, let's have that remark. Is it not correct that you then said, we shall give the Jews a certain part of the forest, and the Alpers shall take care of it that various animals that look damn much like Jews, the elk has such a crooked nose, get theirs also and become acclimated. Is that what you
Jawohl,
said?
das habe ich gesagt.
Yes.
Das ist aus der Stimmung der ganzen Sitzung zu verstehen. Goebbels kommt schon wieder im nächsten Satz: Ich halte dies Verhalten für provokativ. Dieses Ganze war auf mich dauernd, wenn ich das ausdrücken soll, eine Provokation, von den wichtigen und entscheidenden Wirtschaftsdingen auf diese nebensächlichen abzukommen.
Now you come to the point where you ask that Mr. Hilgard from the insurance companies be called in. You find that?
Jawohl, jawohl.
And then you made a statement to Mr. Hilgard when he appeared. The following is our case. Because of the justified anger of the people against the Jew, the Reich has suffered a certain amount of damage. Windows were broken, goods were damaged, and people hurt. Synagogues burned, and so forth. I suppose that the Jews, many of them, are also insured against damage committed by public disorder. Hilgard, yes. If that is so, the following situation arises. The people, in their justified anger, meant to harm the Jew. But it is the German insurance companies that will compensate the Jew for damage. This situation is simple enough. I'd only have to issue a decree to that effect that damage resulting from these risks shall not have to be paid by the insurance companies. Is that what you said?
Jawohl, das habe ich alles gesagt, was hier steht.
Now, Hilgard then outlined the kinds of insurance and pointed out to you that at least as to plate glass insurance, the majority of the victims were the owners of buildings and were Aryans, that the Jew had usually been a renter. That right?
Jawohl, das sind die Einzelauseinandersetzungen oder Diskussionen.
And Hilgard said, "May I draw your attention to the following facts. Glass for the shop windows is not being manufactured by the Bohemian, but by the Belgian glass industry. In my estimation, the approximate money value to which these damages amount is 6 million. That includes the broken glass which we shall have to replace, mainly to Aryans because they have insurance policies."
Mr. Justice Jackson, before you pass from that page, in the third paragraph, just for the sake of accuracy, it appears that the name Mr. Hilgard is wrongly placed, does it not? Because he both seems to put the question and to answer it.
Well, I think that is...
It's probably the defendant Goering who put the question.
Well,
Third paragraph on your page, at least on my page.
I take it that the minute came in that way that when Hilgard appears, Goering addressed him as Mr. Hilgard.
Oh, yes, I see.
But
yes.
it is correct, as Your Honor suggests.
Yes.
Ich darf darauf aufmerksam machen, dass vor dieser Sache hier steht, wegen dieser Glasschäden, dass Goebbels sagt, da muss der Jude den Schaden bezahlen. Ich antworte dann, es hat ja keinen Sinn, wir haben keine Rohstoffe, es ist alles ausländisches Glas, das kostet Devisen, man könnte die Wände hochgehen. Und dann kommt Hilgard mit den Ausführungen, die Sie soeben erwähnt haben.
Yes. And Hilgard pointed out that incidentally, the amount of the damage equals about half of a whole year's production of the Belgian glass industry. We believe that half a year will be necessary for the manufacturers to deliver the glass. You recall that?
Jawohl, jawohl.
Well, passing down, you come to a point at which Hilgard tells you about a store on Unter den Linden that was the subject of attack. Do you find that?
Er sagt, der größte Fall, den wir auf diesem Gebiet haben, ist der Fall Markgraf unter Linden. Meinen Sie das? Ja.
That's right, that's right.
Jawohl.
The damage reported to us amounting to about 1,700,000 because the store was completely stripped. Is that right?
Ja.
And Goering, De Luge and Heydrich, you'll have to get me this jewelry through raids, staged on a tremendous scale. That the order you gave?
Na, selbstverständlich, dass die gestohlenen
Yes.
Dinge wieder rückgeholt werden.
Brought back to you. Brought back to, not
Nicht
to the
ich
Jew.
persönlich, verzeihen Sie. Hier steht ganz klar.
I don't, brought back to the state. You didn't intend to return them to the Jew.
Darüber ist hier zunächst gar nichts gesagt, sondern entscheidend ist, dass sie zurückgebracht werden sollten.
Trying to get the loot back, as Heydrich put it. Is that right? And you added, and the jewels.
Ich kann doch nicht, wenn ein großer Juwelenladen geplündert worden ist, einfach zulassen, dass nun nichts geschieht, denn diese Wertgegenstände konnten ja doch allen möglichen Unsinn anrichten und ich habe deshalb den Befehl gegeben, durch Razzien diese Sachen wie auch andere gestohlene Güter wieder hereinzubringen. Wenn das Geschäft arisiert wurde, dann ging auch der Inhalt des Geschäftes damit in den neuen Besitz über. Entscheidend war aber, dass zunächst gegen diejenigen, die gestohlen und geplündert hatten, etwas unternommen wurde. Und es heißt ja auch, dass bereits 150 verhaftet seien.
Yeah. And Heydrich continues to report on the method of these raids. After you remind him to bring back get the jewels, this is very difficult to say. They were partly thrown into the street and picked up there. Similar things happened with the furriers. For example, in Friedrichstrasse, District C. There the crowd was naturally rushing to pick up minks, skunks, and so forth. It'll be very difficult to recover that. Even the children have filled their pockets, just for fun. It is suggested that the Hitler Youth is not to be employed and to participate in such actions without the party's consent. Such things are very easily destroyed.
Das steht hier.
And Daluge then suggests the party should issue an order to the effect that the police will immediately receive a report in case the neighbor's wife, everybody knows his neighbor, has a fur coat altered, or in case somebody appears wearing new rings or bracelets. We'd like the party to support us here. Correct?
Das ist absolut richtig.
Now, Hilgard objected to your plan of relieving the insurance companies from paying the claims, did he not?
Jawohl, das ist richtig.
And he gave these reasons. Hilgard, if I may give reasons for this request, I'd like to say that it simply has to do with the fact that we carry out, to a large extent, quite a number of international transactions. We have a very good international basis for our business transactions. And in the interests of the equilibrium of the foreign exchange in Germany, we have to make sure that the confidence in the German insurance shall not be ruined. If we now refuse to honor clear-cut obligations imposed upon us through lawful contract, it would be a black spot on the shield of honor of the German insurance. Goering, it wouldn't be the minute I issue a decree, a law sanctioned by the state. Am I quoting correctly?
Jawohl, und Hilgard antwortet darauf wollte ich nämlich kommen. Er meinte also, Sie könnten nicht ohne gesetzliche Grundlage und ohne gesetzliche Basis sich der Versicherungszahlung entziehen. Wenn aber der souveräne Staat ein Gesetz macht, dass die Versicherungssummen zugunsten des Staates eingezogen werden, dann ist die Versicherungsgesellschaft für sich nicht mehr dafür haftbar.
Now, I suggest to you that that is not correct, but that even though you propose to issue a decree absolving the German insurance companies, the companies insisted on meeting their obligations. And then Heydrich interposed and said the insurance may be granted, but as soon as it is to be paid, it'll be confiscated. That way, we'll have saved our face. Correct?
Das sagt Heydrich, ich habe aber ein klares Gesetz gemacht.
Oh, didn't you then say, one moment, you will have to pay in any case because it is the Germans who suffered the damage. But there will be a lawful order forbidding you to make any direct payment to the Jews. You shall also have to make payment for the damage the Jews have suffered, but not to the Jews, but to the Minister of Finance, Hilgard. Aha.
Das habe ich ja eben betont.
Yes. You adopted Heydrich's suggestion, which was quite contrary to the one you brought in.
Nein, ich habe Heydrichs nicht angenommen, sondern ich habe ein Gesetz gemacht, dass die an Juden fälligen Versicherungen an den Finanzminister abzuführen sind und nicht diesen anderen Weg von Heydrich zu gehen, dass die Versicherungen ausgezahlt werden sollten und dann stillschweigend beschlagnahmt, sondern ich bin hier den klaren gesetzlichen Weg gegangen und habe mich nicht gescheut, hierfür das Gesetz zu machen und die Verantwortung zu übernehmen, dass diese Schäden an den Staat, das heißt den Finanzminister, auszuzahlen sind.
Well, the tribunal will judge for itself. We have the evidence. Now Heydrich, Hilgard, then, representing the insurance companies, raised the question that the amount of glass insurance premium was very important, that glass insurance was the company's greatest asset, but now the amount of this damage is alone twice as high as for the amount of ordinary years, and raised the question of destroying the profits of the German insurance companies. Did he not?
Ja.
And also the question of the number of stores destroyed. Heydrich reported 7,500. Is that right?
Ja.
Now I call your attention to the following conversation. Deluge, who, by the way, was he?
Der Lüge war der Führer der Schutzpolizei.
One more question ought to be cleared up. Most of the goods in the stores were not the property of the owner, but were kept on the books of other firms which had delivered them. Then there are the unpaid for deliveries by other firms, which definitely are not all Jewish, but Aryan, those goods that were delivered on the basis of commission. Hilgard, we'll have to pay for them too. Goering, I wish you had killed 200 Jews and not destroyed such values. Heydrich, there were 35 killed. Do I read that correctly?
Jawohl, es war eine Äußerung des Unmuts und der momentanen Erregung.
Spontaneously sincere, wasn't it?
Es war nicht ernst gemeint, sondern ich habe es ausdrücklich betont als ein Ausfluss einer momentanen Erregung über die ganzen Vorgänge und die zerstörten Werte und die Schwierigkeiten, die hier für mich aufgetreten waren. Es ist selbstverständlich, wenn heute jedes Wort, das ich während 25 Jahre in intimen Kreise gesprochen habe, auf die Goldwaage gelegt wird, so werde ich Ihnen selbst noch ganz andere Äußerungen sagen können.
Then Funk interposed. to discuss the foreign exchange point, did he not? He contributed to the discussion, did he not, for a while? I won't bother to go into it.
Ja, es fehlen ja immer gewisse Teile des Protokolls, deshalb ist das hier nicht so klar. Ich bedauere, dass diese Teile fehlen. Das ist merkwürdig.
I join you in that. Hilgard returned again to the subject of the profit of the insurance companies, did he not?
Ja, sicherlich.
And you made this statement, did you not? The Jew shall have to report the damage. He'll get the refund from the insurance company, but the refund will be confiscated. If it's all said and done, there will remain some profit to the insurance companies, since they can't have to make good for all the damage. Mr. Hilgard, you may enjoy yourself. Hilgard, I have no reason for that. The fact that we won't have to pay all the damage is called profit? Goering, just a moment. If you are compelled under the law to pay $5 million, and all of a sudden there appears an angel in my somewhat corpulent form before you and tells you you may keep $1 million, why cannot that be called making a profit? I should actually split with you, or whatever you'd call it. I can see it looking at you. Your whole body grins. You made a big profit. Am I quoting correctly?
Ja, selbstverständlich habe ich das gesagt.